Welcome to GACC South Unplugged, a transatlantic conversation with CEO Matthias Hoffman, brought to you by BMO. I'm your moderator, Mike Salmon, and I'm happy to welcome our host, Matthias Hoffman. Hey there, Matthias. How are you today?
Hey, Mike. Fantastic. Great weather here in Gwinnett, right? And we have a great guest on the show today.
Yes, you do have a wonderful guest. I'll let you do the honors.
Yeah. Nick Masino here with us today, President and CEO of the Gwinnett Chamber here. Local chamber, so we got two guys from Gwinnett and me as a German. Quite a home field advantage for you guys here. Nick, how's it going?
Guten Tag. Very good. Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you and to be with Mike as well in his incredible studio. And I'm really honored that you chose to have me today.
Thank you so much for being here with us. So, Guten Tag is the only thing you know in German, or you have some favorite German word, phrase?
Prost.
Prost, yeah.
The favorite. Yeah. And then I'm going to save one for later.
Okay, gotcha. Mike, any German knowledge, German lessons taken?
Volkswagen.
Oh, that's a difficult one these days.
What's the highway where the Autobahn?
The Autobahn, yeah. I think that Nick will chime in on that, or maybe you can tell us your experience. You just recently came back from Germany.
Yes, love Germany, been many times, but actually just 2 weeks ago, I had my first time to drive. Had always been driven, and my wife and I rented a car and drove from Passau to Munich and stopped. It's kind of like took the touristy way through, and I was really proud that I got up to 180 kilometers, and I was informed that was only 100 miles an hour, so not too impressive, but it felt fast, and it was really amazing. You got to stay to the left. I'm sorry, to the right, because they are going to pass. Like you, it is illegal to. You have to be passing, or you're getting pulled over. Because cars are going 200 miles an hour.
Sure.
Wow.
It's amazing.
You only do that very early morning, usually.
I understand it's fairly safe.
Yes and no. It depends.
If you know how to drive.
If you know how to drive, if you don't text while driving, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's still something that kind of, we can advertise as Germans, the German Autobahn improved. That's, I think, it gives a certain sense of quality for a car, right?
I've never understood, Nick, why cars in the United States, they go up to 100, 120 miles per hour on the speedometer, considering the fastest you can go on any highway in the U.S. is 80.
It's just like false advertising, right?
Yes. They should put something on the cars in the U.S. that you can't go past, say 90, because it's illegal. But anyway.
All right. Do you drive a German car, Nick?
I know. I'm a God-fearing American. I drive a Tahoe.
Okay, gotcha. Nick, great having you here, and introduce us a little bit to what the Gwinnett Chamber does. What's the mission, what's the vision, strategy?
Absolutely. We are actually in our 77th year of the Gwinnett Chamber, and we're really proud to be in a beautiful facility across the street from where we are today. But our chamber mission is simply champion business. Yeah. It is the filter in all decisions that we make, that we flow through, and we want to promote, and we are unabashedly for a free market economy and spend a lot of time in that environment making sure that this is a great place to do business. And I think a question you were alluding to is, where do we focus on our economic development side? Our target industries are what we're already good at.
Right.
Advanced communication, advanced manufacturing, supply chain. Generically, with 1 million people in Gwinnett County, we have 25,000 businesses. And our largest group is just professional offices. And what I mean by that, it's finance, accounting, insurance, kind of those just generic things. But we're really good at that. And Gwinnett, as you know, doesn't have a bunch of skyscrapers. That is to the south in Atlanta and in the Dunwoody, Sandy Springs area. But we do have a very large amount of commercial office and business space. But it doesn't look beautiful in a skyline, but it is very large. And we have the largest amount of flex space industrial in the whole state of Georgia, 150 million square feet. Wow. Savannah will surpass us probably in the next 5 years, but they're not there yet. But a lot of advanced manufacturing, a lot of supply chain.
Gotcha. I mean, we Germans, we're not all crazy about skylines, right? I mean, we've been together in Frankfurt just last year, remember?
Correct, yes.
Okay, Frankfurt is, I would say, the only city in Germany that kind of has a skyline.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
It's underwhelming once you live in the U.S. and then you go to Frankfurt and see the skyline over there. Right?
Or London.
Or London,
yeah. Pretty impressive. Well, hey, Shanghai.
Yeah.
Wow, what a skyline. But you're right. To me, that feels a little bit more like Gwinnett. when I'm in Germany.
Right. And that's why I think German companies, they feel good when they're in, Gwinnett or Greenville, South Carolina, those kind of places, cities. I think we Germans, we're more made for, medium-sized cities sometimes.
That makes perfect sense. I had not really thought of it. And I guess that makes sense on why Gwinnett has 100 German companies operating here.
Yeah.
Because they feel at home.
Absolutely. Yeah. What about you yourself? You studied in Ohio, right? Are you from Ohio or are you originally from Duluth or Suwanee? And we'll talk about Suwanee probably later as well.
Sure. That's where I'm going to give you my one other German
Right.
word. But my father was born and raised in the northeast part of the United States. My mother was actually born in England. Her father died during World War II, and was my grandmother married an American GI, adopted my mom, and moved also to the Northeast. And my father was a corporate executive with Anheuser-Busch, with a company that has German, Austrian roots. And we lived in 7 states by the time I was in 8th grade. Wow. So I lived all over the East Coast. St. Louis, obviously, the headquarters of Anheuser-Busch. We lived there as well. And so I've lived all over, but I ended up in high school in Cincinnati. My dad worked for Coors Beer for 5 years, and that brought us to Cincinnati in 1984 when they went national. And I ended up going to Ohio State. And when I graduated, my fiance and I decided we were going to move to Atlanta. And so we got married, moved to Atlanta, and that was 30 years ago this year. And we chose Gwinnett because we knew we were going to have children, and we knew that the school system was very good here. That was our driving factor to choose Gwinnett, and that was a great choice for us. We lived by the Gwinnett Place Mall 30 years ago for 2 years, and then we found this new upstart community called Suwanee. Of which I'll just share, and I think this is what you want to ask me to mention, is I was the Bürgermeister of Suwanee. And let me translate, Mike, that's mayor. You probably have heard that in some Christmas stories maybe before.
I thought you were flipping hamburgers.
No, it's distinction, an honor of distinction to be the Bürgermeister.
And how did you end up becoming the Bürgermeister? You moved from somewhere else in the U.S., you moved to Suwanee, of all places, right?
Yeah.
And then you didn't like the things, how they were, and you said, damn it, I'll become a mayor.
That is a real paraphrase. I would say there was a zoning for some change adjacent to my neighborhood, and my neighbors and I went to go investigate, and we ended up being against it. So we lobbied against it, and we were successful.
Right.
And I was blown away that a person that had only lived there for 9 months could make an impact on the change. And one of the council members said, "Thank you for being here tonight. Don't be a stranger." So I went to the next 6 months council meetings in a row. I was 26 years old. And they realized I didn't have a grudge. I wasn't upset about anything. I was just very interested in the future of my community. And somebody suggested, well, hey, there's a position on the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals. Maybe you should apply. So I did, and I got the position. I'm 26 years old, and I did it for 2.5 years, and it was great. I became chairman after 4 months and learned a lot and learned how local government worked. And the mayor tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I'm not going to run again. One of the council members will likely run for my position. Why don't you find out which one wants to run for mayor? Then you should run for their seat." I had no interest in politics. I mean, I wasn't even on student council in high school. It just wasn't my interest. And so I went and spoke to a couple of the council members, and they all said, not interested in running, check with the next person. And I think it was a bit of a setup because they all turned on me and said, "We're not running for mayor, but we want you to." And so I had the full endorsement of the sitting council members to run for mayor, and I put up signs and did a press release. Well, the mayor never told anyone he wasn't running, so it looked like I was running against the seated mayor. Well, he never qualified, and I won.
So were you going up against anybody?
Well, no, because he didn't run, so I ran unopposed.
You can't lose that election then.
I highly recommend it. And so I put signs up, I got endorsements, and it worked out great. And I was 28 years old. I was elected mayor. For 2 years, I was the youngest mayor in Georgia of, I believe, there are 570 cities. And I was the youngest mayor for 2 years. I served 2 terms. I did not have opposition in my second term either. And state law says if you qualify, you will likely vote for yourself. So you win by 1 vote. And so that's a little trivia question I give to kids when I'm talking to classes or scout troops.
Would you do it again? I mean, that was pre-internet age, and I think we talked a little bit about it, right?
So my last year in office was 2007, and in the United States, and really maybe most of the world, there was the Great Recession in 2008, and also Facebook and Twitter And the people that served after me, man, they did not have a fun time. It was hard. First of all, you had all the social media mix, and then you just had a great recession. So I do feel like I served at a really awesome time from 2000 to 2007, 8 years. And the reason why I didn't run again is the chamber called me and asked me to become their head of economic development.
Right.
It was a new role, this new initiative called Partnership Gwinnett that they rolled out in 2006, and I went to work in February 2007. And I've been at the chamber for 18 years.
Have you ever regretted it? That this
Oh
is
my gosh, not at all. People love to talk about the mayor stuff, as that's interesting. But I was an executive in the headhunting temporary staffing industry for 12 years.
Right.
When I left my position as mayor, in my corporate role, I was a divisional director running a national division for a publicly traded company. And I gave up my career and my passion, which was the community stuff, being mayor, but I got to combine it at the chamber. Because the chamber is both business and community minded.
Right.
So I couldn't believe that I could actually have a full-time job that struck both my passions, and really, really loved it.
And
I have loved it.
honestly, from what I can tell, and I'm sitting on your board actually, right?
Yes, you are.
And I think you're a fantastic CEO. I think you're running a great chamber, and I think that I'm wearing this ring. Maybe you describe what I'm wearing here. My team would say I'm fully iced out. I'm still learning English.
So you are wearing today, and what an honor. And Mike, who's also a chamber board member, has one as well, and I do as well. You're wearing our World Championship ring. This is in 2023 last year. The Gwinnett Chamber won the #1 chamber on the planet Earth. It's a international organization, so it's not just the Americas. There's members from all over the world that are members of this, and we were really, really proud. First time we'd ever won something like that, and we gave all of our members, instead of a pin or a coin or a mug, we got World Championship rings. And as we know, 3 years ago, the Atlanta Braves won the World Championship, and I have a replica ring on my desk. And one day I was looking at that, I was like, I wonder what that cost. And I did some checking, and it wasn't as much as I thought. And
I think this one it's real metal, at least, So I don't run into compliance issues, I guess.
that is 100% correct. And it's funny, is some of our board members thought I got a real one with real diamonds in it. I don't know where they thought that was coming from, but no, it is 100% glass and metal.
Awesome. So you won that award. I mean, I remember talking about it and you presenting it. There were some strategic axes that you kind of had to check all the check marks, basically.
That's correct. And I think you're also referring to our accreditation.
Exactly.
We're a five-star accredited chamber through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. There are over 7,000 U.S.-based chambers, and less than 1% of them are five-star accredited. So we're really proud of that. And that led us into thinking, okay, maybe we should apply for Chamber of the Year. Right. And so we had to write 2 synopses. One we did on our workforce development, other one on our public policy initiatives. And those synopses allowed us to become a finalist. And then you go to a international conference, and we were in Salt Lake City, Utah in summer of 23. And Lisa Sherman, who's our SVP of communication, her and I were interviewed for 45 minutes by 4 chamber CEOs that are past winners. And one of them had won it twice, and it was very intimidating. It was probably the most nervous I'd been probably in a decade. And I know these people, and later they were like, wow, you didn't seem like yourself, Nick. And I was like, I was nervous. And I obviously we did okay because we won.
But you said you have 7,000 chambers here in the US, right? In Germany, we have 79 domestic regional chambers. How does that work, and how do you distinguish yourself now? I mean, 7,000, obviously not all are, of the same quality, the same size, and you're one of the largest suburban chambers in the US, right?
Yes, interestingly enough, in the Southeast United States, which you have gotten to know well in your role, chambers are really prevalent. I mean, I think that has a lot to do with everyone's moving to the Southeast. So you don't have those historic ties and the traditional generational connectivity. So a chamber is a great place to go and build your network. Right. And so we believe we are either the second or our first largest suburban chamber in the United States. And the interesting thing is the second largest, if we're one, it's COP, the COP chamber. Those are our peers. I looked for a year when I got promoted 5 years ago, who are my real peers? And I've never been able to find us. We have about 2,100 member companies. Well, again, 25,000 businesses in Gwinnett. The size of our staff, our budget, and the way we're designed. And as I looked around the country and around North America, in the end, it was COB. We're very similar. And actually, I get together with Sharon Mason, the Cobb Chamber president, and Katie Kirkpatrick, the Metro Atlanta Chamber president. We have dinner once a quarter to swap best practices, great ideas. And it's so unique that you'd have two of the largest suburban chambers in the United States in the same region as the Metro Atlanta Chamber, which is one of the greatest chambers in the U.S. Size-wise, combined, Cobb and Gwinnett is not as big as the Metro Chamber in regards to revenue. And so this is a region that really loves chambers of commerce.
Yeah. Well, what I personally like a lot being on the board of the Gwinnett Chamber is super diverse. Honestly, I think that you for sure check that check mark a lot, right? Your international footprint, right? Can you tell us a little bit how you kind of got to know the chamber when you got in office and how you changed it? And was it difficult? Was it easy?
Well, I had a 5-year plan when I was promoted in the summer of 2019, and we as a community had become the 5th most diverse county in the United States. There's 3,000 counties in the U.S. East of the Mississippi, we're the 2nd most diverse county, and number 1 is Brooklyn, New York.
Right.
Everyone expects Brooklyn's been a place of immigrants for 200 years, maybe longer. And Gwinnett has become a place for immigrants, but not from any single place. As you know, as you see on our board, and as you see in our community, we're an incredibly diverse place. And we have 10% of our population or greater are Asian, white, black, and Hispanic. And that's when you have 4 populations that make up more than 10% of your population, that's where you become a very diverse or a top 30 diverse place in the United States. But our board and really our staff did not reflect that. And I would even argue some of our membership didn't. So what happened in the summer of 2020 in the United States propelled my 5-year plan. I was able to meet all of my 5-year goals in regards to membership, staff, and board in about 24 months. Because what I thought I would have to do is maybe tiptoe around, make some changes, and but after 2020, people were ready for change, and I was ready to provide it and lead it. And my board, my staff, everyone was ripe for the opportunity. So because we're so diverse, we're really lucky. I immediately went to our bilateral chambers that we have memorandum of understandings with, and I invited many of them to the table. So as you know, German and Japan, those are our 2 largest international company bases, and I invited both those chambers to join us. We have the largest Korean population in the Southeast and the 4th largest in the United States. So obviously the Korean American Chamber. We have the largest Hispanic population in Georgia. So we both have the Georgia Hispanic Chamber and the Latin American Association. They're both sitting at the table with seats. So some of that diversity came with inviting the bilateral chambers. But then I was very specific about, in doing my research, to not do any tokenism. You mentioned checking boxes. I didn't want to just check a box. I really wanted to engage a group of people. And so for me, the key was 3s. Invite 3 people from a community. And you can't just say all Latino Hispanics are the same, all Asians are the same. Because if you tell someone that you're the same, a Korean, that you're the same as Japan, or a Japanese person, you're the same as China, that's offensive. Because it is, they're different cultures. So I really tried to be very authentic in connecting. And because people weren't getting together in the summer and fall of 2020 because of COVID, we're lucky we have the largest chamber building in the United States, and we have a private club and a restaurant on the 3rd floor. And so I was able to do very intimate, closed niche dinners. We would have cocktails in the chamber space, groups of 6 to 8, people that knew each other that were comfortable, and then we'd go upstairs and have dinner. And I built this group, and I probably did 12 to 24 dinners in that summer and fall, getting ready to bring in my board. The board that it was fully me. And we were able to do that. And you were actually part of that. And Mike, you came in around the same time. And let me say this, we needed to set a bigger table. I wasn't trying to get rid of anybody. I wanted to bring more people to the table. So our bylaws allowed 111 board seats, but we only had 90 board seats filled. So right off the bat, I had room for 12. But then the first year I moved the board to 130. Brought in more people. The next year, 150. So we have 144 board members coming in January, and it's the most diverse. I mean, I could say this the last 4 years in a row, the most diverse it's ever been. Most of my comments were about race, but in gender, at 111 board seats that were available, there were about 90 in place. There were 15 women. That's not Right.
When you took over.
When I took over, thank you, Mike. And the very next year, we went from 15 women to 31. Next year, 42. This year, we broke 50. So in January, we'll have 50 women plus on the board. I don't know the final number.
It seems like it's 50-50 when we attend. Is there any box that you haven't checked since you took over?
That's a good question. When I was promoted, this is so interesting. There were 0 Asians on the board. I mean, we must have 20 people, and they're Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Indian, Pakistani. And then with some countries, you've got different religions and different sects of Muslim. And I've got different groups within certain religions, all represented. I mean, we've tried. We lean into business, right? So I need a business person or a community advocate that also wants to engage. You've got to want it both ways. It's really been, honestly, a blast doing it. I've learned so much. I've met so many great people. And I keep asking the people I'm trying to bring in, am I doing it the right way? Could I say something differently? Can I adjust? And I've gotten a lot of great advice. And this is something I wouldn't have been comfortable talking about 6-7 years ago. But when you lean into it, you'll get comfortable. It's like anything. You're not comfortable trying a new sport, and you got to practice. And I've got to practice my terminology, phrasing, and you just don't assume you're getting it right and continue to sharpen that saw.
Yeah. Good segue, I would say, into you mentioned before that you were in economic development. So now having such an international board, that should be easy to acquire foreign direct investment, right?
Well, Gwinnett, this precedes me for sure. Gwinnett has always been in a very good seat for recruiting direct foreign investment. Our position on I-85, just back up for a second. If you look at a map of the East Coast and you think this is someone from either Asia or Europe trying to decide on investment, you look at a map in Atlanta and you see 85 goes up through the Carolinas and connects it to DC, Philadelphia, New York, Boston. I know all those places. Where does 75 go? To a bunch of places I've never heard of before. I have to get all the way to basically Chicago before I even recognize the name of a city. And so this is so interesting to me. There is hundreds of more international direct foreign investment on the east side of Metro Atlanta than the west side. You tell me why. I don't know. That's my only logical explanation. And then, like immigrants for 200 years in the United States, people congregate together. That's why we have 100 German companies, 100 Japanese companies, 50 British companies. We have almost half of the Italian companies in the state of Georgia are in Gwinnett. Why? Well, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me.
Right.
And now we were also very open to direct foreign investment, new people. There's always been that Southern hospitality. And there's just no doubt that the people on the west side of Atlanta have the same openness. But I've always tried to figure out why. And maybe it's because we're closer to the Atlantic than the I don't know. Right. I mean, but we have been very lucky. And we did not have a diverse board when all of that happened. We had 500 international businesses the day I got started 18 years ago. We've only grown it by about 100. But the nice thing is those businesses, they've all grown and hired more people, many of them. So it does help, especially with emerging markets, to have a very diverse board.
Yep.
And you have there's a part of the Chamber, Partnership Gwinnett, that is basically their only focus is to bring these companies to Gwinnett County.
That is 100% correct. And that's what I was hired to start that division. And that is a public-private partnership. Gwinnett County Public Schools, the cities, the CI, Community Improvement Districts, and the Chamber and the business community. And there are 8 people that get up every day on the second floor of the Chamber to recruit, retain, and expand businesses in our targeted industries.
Has there been any pushback from the public saying, listen, we don't need more growth, we need to slow it down?
I think because Gwinnett County was, in 1987, 88, and 89, the fastest growing county in the United States, and has continued to be in the 100 fastest growing counties in the U.S. since that time, that I don't hear that.
Are you concerned about overdevelopment at some point?
No, the opposite. We need redevelopment in many of those areas in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that grew with the big box power center that is passé today, because people want to go and shop and walk and go to a coffee shop and go into their office. We need more redevelopment in a more modern, which really it's not even modern. It's the way things used to be developed. That you had a walkability in a community. When you go to any town in Germany, it's walkable, and so we need more of that, less of this was built just for the automobile. So I see those efforts, and people are excited about redevelopment. The county is also trying to make sure that there are more intense development is happening along the corridors like I-85, so people can get on and off the highway quickly and get it off the surface streets. The cities have all been creating these walkable town centers. Nobody's opposed to that. That's where you go for entertainment. They're family friendly, or like Duluth is family friendly, but it's got a very cool, there's a lot of millennials and Gen Zs hanging out, going to the brew pubs. It's very cool. Mm-hmm. So I have not seen a pushback. We've also, every time we're asked about that, we communicate. If you're not growing, then there's no flat. You don't just stay the same. So you're either declining or you're growing. And we have to continue to reinvest.
And you've been to some of our German Christmas markets. Did you like them? And I think that you see that Germans either take public transportation or they're walking a lot. We don't see that happening even in developments like here in Gwinnett, do we?
It's very hard. I mean, America was designed for the last 100 years for the automobile. We didn't have the infrastructure except in some of the older, more mature cities for real, transportation, subways and trains and whatnot. The short answer is, I do love the German Christmas markets and have experienced it, and I'd be happy to talk about that. In America, we have the Fall Festival, which really arguably was the original origins of the Oktoberfest, right? And all of our communities have those fall festivals, whatever their name is. But it's historically the crops came in and you're celebrating the harvest, which then for us leads to our Thanksgiving holiday coming up in a few weeks. But we have not built America to be walkable. I mean, it's a fact. We're trying to retrofit. Mm-hmm. There's many books have been written about it. Retrofit America is literally the title of a book that's very well known in development circles. And we're trying the walkability scale is discussed. I know when I was mayor or Bürgermeister, we literally created an ordinance that said every development had to have a green space in it that was no less than a 5-minute walk. Mm-hmm. And so not only was there green space, but it had to be walkable. Mm-hmm. And each development had to have at least, I think it was 27% of undeveloped space, trying to create both the harmonious environment, which, my gosh, I was just in Munich. I mean, arguably, I think the largest urban park in the world is right in Munich. It's technically a British design park, just absolutely gorgeous. And by the way, I want to answer something I think you wanted me to mention, but my favorite Christmas market, without a doubt, is the historic Cologne Christmas market. Okay. And what I love about that one is you also get the Cologne Cathedral Christmas market, and you'll walk 100 yards and you're in the historic Christmas market.
I think he's been to more Christmas markets in Germany than I have been.
And interesting enough, I think the first one I ever went to was probably 20 years ago, and it was in Paris, of all places. Okay. And it always makes me snicker that you got a German Christmas market in Paris, which is actually really fun and a blast. But Christmas markets, we have one in Atlanta, in Buckhead. Yep. I have yet to go. But I told my wife we've got to plan for it.
It's decent, You get good mulled wine, a good, currywurst and all that stuff. So check it out.
Yeah, I do love almost any type of German sausage. So it's Glühwein.
Glühwein.
And then what's the other one? You just said mulled wine.
Yeah, that's the Glühwein, actually.
Oh, it's the same thing?
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
Man, it's so good. Yeah. One is there's an apple.
Yeah, it's either apple or orange. You can kind of drop some orange into it.
Oh, so good. Actually, I really love that when I'm skiing.
Is that your favorite German beverage, or you're more? Since you have a beer history, probably you like German beers.
I mean, of course. I mean, I was in Munich. That's where I took my wife. She had never been before. We did the photos and the Hofbrauhaus with the beers and the giant pretzels. It's a great photos. But is it Kolsch in Cologne?
Yes,
that's a great little. They do the little 6 to 8 ounce glasses. Yeah, you want a stack of them, and it shows up, and you're like, I can't drink all of that, but it's really not that much.
It's not that much.
It just looks like a lot.
True. Yeah.
I love to travel, and you could find a great thing to do, a great cultural activity in any country. Yep. But Germany's got a lot of great ones.
True. And since you're traveling, probably you bring home a lot of experience. How do you lead your team then? I mean, you have a team of, it's not that small, huh? I mean, how many people do you have?
Yeah, for a chamber, it's huge. Yeah, we got 32 full-time employees. Right. We have 4 openings if anyone's looking for an opportunity. Yeah. And my leadership style, there's this kind of silly book that was written, maybe not so silly, it's probably not the right term, called The Fish Philosophy. And the fish philosophy was written about a fish market called Pike's Place Fish Market in Seattle. And the folks that worked there had a positive attitude in an environment that was cold, wet, smelly, demanding customers. They had to get up at 4 a.m. to go shovel ice into the fish. And they had a great time because they chose their attitude. They played every day. They had fun. They took their job seriously, but they didn't take themselves too seriously. They tried to make their customers' day. And they were trying to be present with their coworkers. And those are the 4 principles of FISH I just gave you very quickly. And I read that book 25 years ago and applied it to everything that I do. And my team knows any topic could be a serious topic. We're learning, we're growing, but you could have fun. You can play. You can enjoy each other's company. If I'm in a meeting and we're not laughing, we're getting the work done, but let's have a good time while we're there. I mean, I work 9 to 10 hours a day minimum. I mean, I want to have a good time while I'm doing it. You never stop sharpening the saw. I mean, you've got to continue to grow.
Sure.
And know, I love this little phrase. You got to know what the broccoli is in your teeth. You might have broccoli in your teeth and you don't know it and you want your friend to tell you. You want your friend to tell you, or your coworker or your peer. And I even allow our subordinates, I don't even like to call them subordinates, they're our team. If we're not doing something right, let us know. Let me know. I have an open door policy. And so I think those are kind of my leadership principles in a nutshell.
Because I was thinking about that, especially after you kind of won those awards and the 5-star, accreditation and whatnot. I thought okay, how do you motivate yourself and your team? What's next? What's coming up? What's the future of the Gwinnett Chamber? So what do you have kind of in terms of strategic goals?
It's a great question. And we're really lucky to have won it when we did because, as you know, at the same time we were undertaking a historic renovation to the chamber building. So here we are with the largest chamber building in the United States. It was 23 years old last year, and it looked great. There's no doubt. I mean, people love it, but it just needed to be modernized. And so we rolled right in from 5-star chamber, then chamber of the year, to this newly renovated building. As you know, we invested $6.2 million in the building. It looks fantastic. And we created a new culture in the building where we invited our members into the building. Come work with us. Come spend time with us. We opened everything up. That incredible patio with the fire pit and the roll-up garage doors. It just, it feels different. Our staff loves it. Our members love it. I mean, I've seen you working in the community room. It's there designed for our board members, our Chairman's Club members. So we're always looking, and it's really one of our tenets is we want to embrace the new. And so you can't have these gigantic, audacious goals every year to win the Chamber of the Year. I mean, that's just setting yourself up for failure. And the reality is, in our international association, you can only win it every 3 years. So we can't even apply for 3 years. I mean, we can apply in 2 years now, and we will, of course. But we're always embracing and growing. So we'll be rolling out at our board retreat later this month, our 3-year strategic plan, which will answer that exact question. We got input last year in the board meeting, the board of directors retreat on our plan. We got staff feedback, and we built this plan. We're really excited to roll it out.
And what I like, Mike, is when I see what the chamber is coming up with in terms of events and fly-ins and whatnot. I always think okay, if you have such a regional focus on Gwinnett, it's kind of okay, Nick passes the Gwinnett borders and then he gets shaky and doesn't know where he is and stuff, but no, they're doing a lot of those DC fly-ins and things, across the world, basically. You've been recently with the board to Greece, right?
More recently, we were in Brazil and Argentina in September. And then we were in Athens, and thanks to some of your advice, my wife and I had a lovely trip to Santorini to celebrate our 30th anniversary. And yes, we do a DC fly-in every year. We do a strategic leadership visit. In September, we were in San Diego. We're going to Montreal, Canada next September, and that's where we take 30 business, community, and elected leaders to another region of the United States, or really obviously North America, to learn best practices. The DC fly-in, we are going to lobby our Congress members for the things that we want to make sure that positively affect Gwinnett and stop things that might negatively be affecting Gwinnett.
That's again a good segue. So one part of your job is being a lobbying institution, right? As a chamber. That's we cannot do that here in the U.S. I mean, we cannot influence U.S. policy, obviously, as being in that country here now, but that's one part of your job. And how important is it? Because now I had a webinar today with one of our domestic chambers of commerce and their members in Germany, and of course it was a post-election and what's going on, and in the end, a lot of times I think in Germany people do not understand the difference between the federal level and the community and state and local levels, right? I think that a lot of those 100 German companies that are here already, they're doing a great job, and they have great economic and political environment that they strive in, actually. So can you shed some light on your job as a lobbyist and what you can do for companies here?
Sure, absolutely. So you are correct. We lobby at the federal level. We lobby at the state level and then at the local level. So here in the way the Georgia's constitution works, both counties and cities serve at the pleasure of the state legislature. So they could end a city with a vote, or a county and reorganize them. So we serve at their pleasure, but we also lobby them to make sure that things are in place for a great place to live, work, and play for our citizens and our businesses. But we also do that at the local level, at the county and city level. Now, you'll never find me, or maybe twice in 18 years, literally going to a county commission meeting or a city council meeting asking for something. Mm-hmm. The local lobbying looks more like the engagement with the elected officials, mm-hmm. doing events and programming with them, spending time with them. So if an issue arises that they're looking at, they will likely come to us and say, what does the business community think about this? And so we're not per se lobbying, we're influencing though, which really is lobbying. At the federal level, it looks very different. It's very, we're going to, we would love, and I've been beating this drum for a decade, is we've got to fix immigration. And when I say that, it depends on who's listening. They're going to hear different things. Someone may think, yeah, we need a border we need a wall at the border. That's not what I'm referring to. We need a way for talent to come to the United States fairly and equitably. We've got to figure out a way that we're blessed that people want to be in the United States. Let's find out a legal way for that. And the folks that are here, they just need to be vetted. And then we got to find a way to citizenship. And not in a decade, but sooner. Because I think that as soon as we can get that done, we're going to be so much better off. I was very impressed about 5 years ago. I was in a trip to Germany, probably visited 6 different cities, probably 10 different businesses. And it was at the same time where Germany allowed or invited in, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 million Syrians. In Germany, much like the United States, we need a workforce. And when I was talking to business owners, manufacturers, and I know this is not the opinion across all of Germany, but the people that I was speaking to, which were business leaders, said, we need this talent. And people had said to me, we're a rich, wealthy nation, and we need to give these people a chance. And by the way, we also need the workforce. Mm-hmm. And so they're doing the best they could to enroll those new citizens to Germany so they could speak fluent German, yep. that they could be trained in tech schools, and nobody does the apprenticeship better than Germany. You know that. That's
exactly the point, right? I mean, that's something that I think that we as a German chamber, we're bringing that German apprenticeship system here to the US, the model of, you don't need to speak German, you don't have to be German, you don't need to be a German company, but I think that our apprenticeship system works, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think that this is something we'd love to continue the discussion either way. I think that, this could be something, you have immigration coming in, and how do you get them from unskilled labor to skilled labor and train them? Technical training in schools, be it, I don't know, automation technologies, or be it CNC or mechatronics. I think all those technical jobs, I think we could help a lot with the training of those folks.
I have been around the world many times. Nobody does it better than Germany. Yeah. There's without a doubt. So we have a lot to learn.
And it's a debt-free education, and it's earn while you learn, right? So mm-hmm. you can kind of, not everybody needs to go to college, right?
Yes, that perception that we're all within probably 5-10 years of each other. We all grew up with, you had to have a college degree, at least in America. I mean, Mike, if you didn't have a college degree, you didn't talk about it 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Today, that is not the panacea we all were led to believe. And we do believe that everything you just said and all the industries you just mentioned is a pathway. Logistics, advanced manufacturing, supply chain, all fantastic industries that experience probably outweighs the education.
Right.
I just want to ask a question, Matthias, as you get ready to wrap things up for the show. You've had a chance to be on the board now for a little bit for the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce, and you've seen Nick Masino in action. As a CEO of your chamber, have you learned anything from Mr. Masino?
Oh, yes. I mean, you can be professional and you can still be entertaining. I think that, that is something that I really take from Mr. Masino over here. But also...
So you tell bad jokes at your meetings?
I'm trying to. But also, like in the board meetings, sometimes, it's just a little bit more hands-on, what you're doing. For instance, I remember there was kind of like a discussion about a certain logo type, a new logo or something, For us, that could end up in the discussion of 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, right? Whereas you just put a QR code on the wall and said like, okay, hey, those are the different options that you have. Just vote for it with, I don't know what it was, some digital tool, And that just took 2 minutes. Everybody put out their phones, scanned the QR code, selected the logo that they liked, and that's it. So I think that sometimes that being hands-on and entertaining and still being professional, that's something that we can learn from.
Mike, thanks for asking the question. I'll share one thing. My board meetings don't get boring.
No.
Because no one is invited to speak for more than 7 minutes.
I learned that the hard way in the beginning when I was able to introduce myself and Nick just came up to me and said like, you got 2 minutes, and he was dead serious about that.
I get very serious about that. And you think about how famous TED Talks are, and I believe they're no more than 13 minutes. And if someone's talking beyond 13 minutes, you're going to lose half the crowd.
Yeah.
The people that are interested are still going to be interested, but then you're just going to lose the other group. So I always want people wanting more.
Yes.
Just, ooh, wow, that was great. Why did you cut it off so short? I'm glad. So I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Still, last question from me, which I would like to ask Nick here on the show. Where this encounter with a member of your chamber? Because, we all have a lot of members and some are, they're all different somewhat, and some are really funny.
Well, let me speak to the Gwinnett Chamber members. I've never had a weird encounter.
Okay.
I've obviously have had many unique encounters with people, and I think it typically, thematically, they don't understand what we are or what we do. So this is just a funny thing. We have people that call us almost every day looking for a map. A map. You could assume that they're a certain age generation. We have people calling us every day asking for, do you have a recommendation on restaurants? They think we're the old 411. And so I would say that I don't even know, I doubt they're members. If people don't know what to do or where to call, they call us.
Yeah.
And that's just a funny thing that most people probably aren't aware. They just call their chamber thinking their chamber might know.
As we wrap up, Nick, the website for people to go to find out about what's going on in the business community and all the events that you guys put on. You guys put on hundreds and hundreds of events every year. What's the website?
Sure, Mike, you're right. Over 250 events a year, and it's gwinnettchamber.org. And if you are from Germany, let me just spell Gwinnett for you. GWINNETT, chamber.org.
I sometimes have trouble spelling Gwinnett. It's like, is it one T or two T's?
Two N's,
and I'm
two
not
T's.
from Germany.
Yes.
And Matthias, the German-American Chamber of Commerce Southeast, for folks that want to know more about that.
Right. That's GACC South.com. Also 2 C's in that. Thanks a lot, Nick, again, and looking forward to a lot of joint events again. So the international mixer that we had was fantastic. I must say, our gala, in the meantime, if folks don't have anything to do, we still have a couple of spaces left for our gala at the St. Regis, December 7th in Atlanta.
Thank you, Matthias, and thank you, Nick. I want to thank all of our listeners to the GACC South Unplugged podcast series, a transatlantic conversation with CEO Matthias Hoffman. And again, it's brought to you by BMO.